Now, jokes apart, today the whole of India and the whole of the world is concerned and talking about the tension that exists between India and China in the Himalayas along the border.
Yes.
One day, a very unfortunate thing has happened. 20 of our soldiers got killed, and reportedly the 43 Chinese were also injured or killed. And in addition to that, 76 other Indian troops were badly injured, and they're being treated and so on. And after more than 45 years, such a serious incident has happened. Generally, people have been thinking that two great Asian countries, great civilizations, will work together. And people said the 21st century belongs to Asia. And as you know, for more than 2000 years, Indians and Chinese have been friends. There is a reference to China in our Mahabharata, Arthashastra. Chanakya writes about Chinese silk. And 1600 out of 2000 years, during the past 2000 years, India and China together accounted for 50% of global GDP, you know. And we have been doing fairly well, and we were thinking that we'll cross $100 billion mark, which was to happen in 2015, but it has not happened. We are stuck at $85 billion trade now, but we account for only 15 billion. The rest, the trade deficit is a serious problem. Chinese don't seem to be doing anything about that. And now this serious event happened in spite of the fact that you had the Wuhan informal summit and then Mamallapuram, and a lot of working together in the international fora, or Jula diplomacy, you call it, or white dhoti diplomacy, whatever. And suddenly, for the first time, of course, we had this war in 1962, and we thought things were going smoothly, and now you have this nasty incident on Monday. What do you make of it, Dr. Swami?
Well, I was not so surprised. I mean, certainly some surprise was there in terms of the timing. But I had been, since 2015, writing letters to the Prime Minister, and I have been speaking in party gatherings, private party gatherings, that it doesn't look very good. Because I was traveling to China to address conferences regularly. And the Tsinghua University had many of my ex-students from Harvard in key positions. They became very famous people also, like Yan Shetong and Li Dakwei and so on. They were used to ensure that I came for conferences. And then, of course, would meet people. And since in 1981, I had met Deng Xiaoping, I got what is called as the clearance for being an acceptable person. So the Chinese spoke to me frankly, and I got the impression that there was something that was amiss. And I was a bit surprised because in the last, since 2014, Modi has met one-to-one with Xi Jinping 18 times. Now, and each time your media would say strategic partnership, this, that, two of us have got together, and nobody really went into what was the follow-up. And there were some contradictory moves also, which agitated both of us for different reasons. The Chinese cutting through our POK for their border road project. And we, having participated in the Shanghai Accord and then formed a compact with the BRICS compact, we went and Modi went to Japan, and then there he made some remarks of the Chinese taking over of those islands, South China Sea islands. So there was this factor that was there. But I never thought it will end up like this. I mean, it'll flare up like this. So my first point I would like to make is that I do think that there is some power struggle going on in China. I mean, not in any coup sense, but I think PLA and the Politburo, there is some tension on how to deal with this problem. And I can tell you from the records I have seen in great detail, which I had published in my earlier book on India, China, Mao Zedong in 1962 didn't want this war. And it was the PLA which was very keen on doing it. And then Nehru made that remark about, I have given instructions to the army to throw the Chinese out. That led to the flare-up, and then, of course, you know the consequences of that. In 1977, Mr. Desai asked me whether, because I have studied China, I know the language. I mean, I'm maybe a little rusty now, but I taught Chinese economics for years and years at Harvard. So I knew the China well. It was known to Morarji, and Morarji asked me whether I could ensure that the Chinese would agree at least to discuss the border. Because at that time, the Chinese position was there's nothing to discuss. It's ours and we've taken it. So I had suggested to him that because of our Indo-Soviet treaty, and that time the Soviets and the Chinese were not pulling on. Therefore, the Chinese will not oblige unless Morarji said, we are a new government and we have nothing to do with the Soviet Union. And I said, in particular, the Indo-Soviet Treaty requires us to help Russia, Soviet Union, if there's any military action which the Soviet Union is involved in. And the Soviet Union was involved in at that time on that island in Ussuri River, which divides USSR, divided Soviet USSR and China. And the island was claimed by China. And so they were about to go to war with, they had been to skirmishes even in the 60s, but it was going to be a major thing, and for which the Soviets wanted to use the Indo-Soviet Treaty to come into India with their forces and then go to Tibet from India. And that Morarji declined. And that's really what changed everything. And the Chinese became ready to receive us. I went in 1978, and it was followed by Mr. Vajpayee's visit as foreign minister. And then later on in 1981, Mr. Deng Xiaoping, who became the Supremo, he invited me for a one-to-one meeting in which I got him to agree, which everybody thought will never agree, and that is to open Kailash Mansarovar. There was only one condition that Deng Xiaoping put, and that was that I would go first. Because he says, I want you to know what you will suffer for making me agree to this. We don't believe in religion and all that. He gave me a big lecture, but he did it. And they have never interrupted that so far. But the Sikkim route, which was opened by the Prime Minister, they've closed it down. So I'm hoping that they don't do this as far as this route is concerned. But anyway, then the thawing began. And following my visit, their foreign minister came to India, and Narasimha Rao was foreign minister, and I was deeply involved. So we came to a conclusion that now we'll start resuming normal relations. And I think the high point was Rajiv Gandhi, who went and met Deng Xiaoping, and then that created the idea of having groups to discuss how to have confidence-building measures. And the first confidence-building measure was, and this is relevant from what has happened today, the first confidence-building measure was in 1993 with Narasimha Rao. And then concretization surprisingly took place when Mr. Deve Gowda was the Prime Minister. And Xi Jinping, the then Prime President, I think, I forget his name, but he came and Deve Gowda pulled it off. And that is the thing that says, that amongst the confidence building measures, you will not use your weapons. You will only come, you will discuss, you will meet without any weaponry, and so on. All these rules were laid down. And the LAC, as it was called, it was not demarcated, but it was you know, I don't know the correct word, demarcated or delineated, but one means that you have a rough idea on the map. But the other one is you give latitude, longitude, and so on. And so I think is delimitation, or delineated is the correct word. And that was not done. So, but a broad picture of the LAC was there. And it is a fact that China has crossed that. So there's no question that the provocation in this particular case is being done by China. We did not provoke them. The only thing we did was we relied on the Russian opinion that the massing of troops on the LAC on their side, which was happening in April, the Russians said, no, this is just routine exercise. And so for this corona, we did not occupy the across the bank hill. So when the Chinese arrived there and they saw the hill is, Indian troops are not there, they went and occupied it. And they're still there. So the issue today basically is, can you make China go back to the pre-situation, that is the pre-April situation? And that, I think China is not interested. And that surprises me. It means the hardliners have become very effective. Today's Global Times has an article by two persons. I don't know whether they're government people or they're scholars, but they have said that if India doesn't take the message clearly, then let us make it clear that there are other nations also with border problems with India, and Pakistan and Nepal have been named both, and that we can have a joint operation. So this means that I don't think this is just a poke and then return back to normality. This is going to lead further. I'd like to say this much, that we have been misled by the Jawaharlal Nehru period so much that to backtrack is, becoming very difficult with our people. McMahon Line, there is no such thing as McMahon Lines. It was drawn definitely by Sir Henry McMahon when he was Foreign Secretary in Delhi, in the meeting with Tibet, in which China boycotted, didn't come. But the Tibet was sent by some Longchen Shatra. He had come on behalf of Tibet. And then they drew a tentative line called the McMahon Line, which went from Arunachal's one side all the way to Burma. I mean, that was a line which he agreed in principle, but the Tibetan government in Lhasa was so angry with him that they dismissed him. So therefore, to say that we have this legal proof of McMahon Line, first of all, is degrading that imperialist drawn line, we should use that as our evidence. We should have negotiated that at the time when the Tibet was handed over to China. But at the time when 1961, 62, we went to claim that McMahon Line justifies us from claiming Arunachal as part of India. It's not true. But Chinese have no case, because they made the fatal mistake, I don't know how they made that mistake, of signing a treaty with Burma or Myanmar in 1963, in which they have recognized McMahon Line as the international boundary. So if there's anybody who is given legitimacy to McMahon Line, it's the Chinese. And therefore, they can't say that, okay, for Burma, McMahon Line is okay, but not for you. That we can't. So as far as Arunachal is concerned, I'm very clear every inch of it is part of India. And according to the McMahon Line, we are ready to sign an agreement on that. And this side, there were two Scottish people who drew some kind of rough line, but there was nothing very clear. But we had agreed to negotiate, and we were negotiating. And what this sudden turn has come, they say, because some people are saying in the media that Amit Shah made this remark and he said that Aksai Chin and POK will take them both back. Now, what do you expect Amit Shah to say? Our stand is that that whole Aksai Chin is ours. Maybe in the negotiations we may give and take. But as till that negotiation is completed, the Home Minister of the country has to take the stand that every inch of that property is ours. And therefore, to say that Amit Shah's statement irritated them, and therefore they did all this, I don't buy it. I think probably there is a faction which thinks that they are deteriorating relations with the United States. And in the conflict between the United States and China in the future, which can be possible, it's not certain, India would be neutral or be supportive of the United States, particularly in logistics. We make a big difference for hitting Chinese from the underbelly. So it is here that I think we are not clear, but I don't think this is going to be over. The Chinese will not move back. The Indian people will not tolerate Modi accepting status quo, the new status quo. So we will have to go to war, and this 1962, whatever is hanging around our neck was 1962. We can't have a similar situation where we lump it. And so I personally feel that we should prepare for war, maybe a local war, localized war. But we must prepare for a war. That is what the situation looks to me today.
Well, it's a very interesting, Dr. Swami, I mean, I can see where you're coming from and you have so much knowledge. But 2-3 things you've mentioned. One is Tibet has always been an irritant, and Tibet was not ever really resolved between the two, and we have sheltered Dalai Lama and given him asylum, and that continues to be an irritant. I agree with you that Home Minister's statements don't create wars between countries. They claim till they negotiate. But definitely the scenario that you painted with the United States and China almost on the verge of creating animosity turned into something else could be the reason why China is posturing on India's side, because India is today most comprehensive strategic partner of United States and building up defense relationship and strategic relationship vis-a-vis the Indian Ocean, even South China Sea. But are we sure? I mean, you have just sounded the bugle for war, even if it's a localized one. And I know that this government can only ill afford not to struggle to take that position back, which has suddenly been occupied by the Chinese. And I think the calculated mistake we made was that we let it go. We almost just let it go.
Yeah.
And you are right. I mean, we could see the signs coming when Nepal stood and claimed some territories and Pakistan hauls up 2 Indian diplomatic mission staff. It is not these 2 countries' independent agenda and suddenly one day they wake up and they say, oh, we can do this. They have to have some power backing them. So a local war. So I'm just concerned. I mean, there was Kargil and now we are going to Aksai Chin. India seems to never get out of trouble.
Well, first of all, let me give another point of view on Tibet. We did sign 1954 where we recognized Tibet as a region of China. But what surprised me is that in 2003, Vajpayee went to Beijing and signed another agreement reaffirming that Tibet is a region of China, but also accepting the partition of Tibet. Tibet, what happened, the Chinese did is they broke it up into 4 parts. And 3 parts they merged with the neighboring provinces of Tibet. So, of China. So therefore, what we have today called Tibet region of China is only 1/4 with 1/3 of the Tibetan population. And and 1/4 of the area.
Mm-hmm.
Tibet has been sold down the river, first by Jawaharlal Nehru and then by Vajpayee. And we have written treaties on that. You will have to break that. And and if you want them to become an independent country, you will have to defend them and go there with your army and all that. That's a huge calculation that you'll have to make. But I think if you have a treaty and you don't want, you are accusing the Chinese of breaking agreements and so on, you can't come and just abrogate the treaty unless you found some other reason. As of now, don't make Tibet an issue. It's not an issue because the Chinese have done so much assimilation, and the younger generation has respect for Dalai Lama. I've been to Tibet about 2-3 times in order to go to Kailash and Mansarovar. And I don't get that impression that there was, of course, it's a communist country, so people aren't going to speak frankly to me. But they saw I was with all the officials and so on. Therefore, I thought they would be a little more talkative. And they didn't give me that impression that they were unhappy with their situation they are in. In fact, in terms of development, there's been a lot of development in Tibet. And same thing with Taiwan. Taiwan is the issue where I think the Chinese are more concerned, because the Americans may one day declare Taiwan as the real China, or at least an independent country. And we have also given recognition to the Chinese and said that Taiwan is a part of China. We've been saying that for a long time. I don't know why we give all these laddus to the Chinese without getting anything in return. We even gave them the UN Security Council job, which when America expelled Kuomintang China, saying that and said that we will not allow communist China to take its place, they offered the seat to us. Vijayalakshmi Pandit wrote a letter to Jawaharlal Nehru, which are you getting into all these intricate foreign policy matters? You don't fall into a trap and so on. Anyway, we did a lot for China. We campaigned from 1950 to 1971 that they should be made as a member of the UN General Assembly and given the UN Security veto holding power seat. So I don't think you can say that the Chinese have been ones who have been doing a lot wrong. We are not able to look after our own backyard. Then why blame the Chinese?
So you no. But my question was: so do you think that India will go to that length of war to reclaim that hill?
I know the mood in my party. I know on what basis we came to power, and it will be suicide for us not to recover that land, no matter what the price we have to pay.
And it would not happen through diplomacy?
No. The Chinese obviously have come this far because this matter has been settled, and I don't think Xi Jinping can stand up to the PLA.
So you're also, in other words, saying that Xi Jinping doesn't matter that much, or doesn't matter as much as he used to in the stream of things, as you started out your comments by saying that there is a tussle between the Politburo and the PLA.
No, but see, the PLA is only interested in military action. They are not interested in political power, and never have been all through history. So they'll tell Xi Jinping to go around the world, meet people, meet Modi another 18 times if you like, but this decision on what to do about Aksai Chin, we have to do it. There's also another problem. The Chinese are desperate to have a road going, an alternative road going to the ocean. And that's why they came up with this border road incident thing, and then went through POK and so on. Now, I can say on an informal basis, because I have never represented the government of India at any stage in my visits to China, although the Chinese leaders all have met me and talked to me very frankly. But I got the impression that if we say to the Chinese, of course, now we can't say anything to them because our people will kill us. what I asked them, instead of your going through Aksai Chin and then down there to Gwadar port, why not you bring it from, I didn't know that time Nepal is going to claim Lipu Lake, from the Lipu Lake side down and to Bombay, or from Kunming you come to Rangoon to Calcutta and go to the ocean. It's very interesting. We are ready to discuss that. I've conveyed it to our government also, that you are saying the Chinese are going through POK. Well, they are ready to give up that route if you can let them come through that. But now it's only an academic question. But I just mentioned it, that's an issue why they are doing this, because this is a very crucial part. Aksai Chin is a very crucial part because both the Xinjiang and Tibet are involved, and they want now a more secure position, and they don't want India that close to these two border states.
But do you think, as a corollary, do you think that Imran Khan would jump up and down and open a front with India now?
Imran Khan is a joker. No, he doesn't count for anything in Pakistan. It's the military.
Yeah,
the military is controlled by the Americans, so it's not going to be that easy for the Chinese to persuade. They will learn the hard way. And after all, you must remember the Chinese treatment of Muslims in Xinjiang is not even 1/1,000,000th of what the Hindutva people are asking of doing to Muslims in India.
Venkat.
We only want them to become Indianized. We want them to have a uniform civil code, not eat cow. These are things. There, they have just taken away all the children and put them in different parts of China, and they're bringing them up in boarding schools. There will be no Muslim left after another 30 years in China.
I know Venkat is wanting to ask something. Venkat, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No. Venkat.
Venkat, Venkat is,
Venkat, can you unmute yourself? Unmute.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Swami,
Yes.
all these problems are because we do not have a clearly delineated international border between China and India.
Yeah.
Granted, the Chinese never accepted the McMahon line, but they did accept it as a border with Myanmar.
Yes.
And in 1960, Even Lai came up with a proposal which almost accepted McMahon line without saying it in so many words. And he said 20 kilometers away from that line, we will stay, and you guys also stay 20 kilometers away and all that. And in 1980, and when Rajiv met Deng Xiaoping in Beijing.
And also when he said it to me also.
Yeah, he came up with this watershed thing, and let us have a compromise. You make a compromise in Aksai Chin, we, then Arunachal Pradesh and all that. What happens to all that? What happens to all that? Can that still work? Are the Chinese in a mood to settle a border dispute for good and work together with China in global affairs?
After this invasion of Aksai Chin is over, to our satisfaction, and of course to their satisfaction, then you can talk of these things. Now everything is off the table. The only thing that is on the table, and we are also committed, because it's now a question of our asmita, as they say in Sanskrit, our identity. We can't have another 1962. And it has been flung at us so many times in so many forums. Remember 62, remember 1962. We want to wipe that out. And we have got the capacity. Chinese have got a very long supply line. They need not think that they are stronger than us. I'm telling you, in the way the strategic situation is, provided the Americans catch the Pakistanis by the throat and make them sit down. Nepal is not a problem. I think we can solve it. It's an emotional problem. We can rectify it. So if we have to fight the Chinese full-fledged on this issue, we'll defeat them. And the Chinese will realize that at some stage, but they don't think we have got that resolve. At least the PLA doesn't realize it. In fact, that may even strengthen Xi Jinping's hands. That I've discussed this. We have prepared everything, and we need it. We don't want the Indians to be alienated to go to the Americans. 1,000 reasons he can give, but this issue must be settled as the restoration of the ex-ante status quo. What was the status quo before April has to return. Otherwise, India and China's relation can never be normal.
Are you suggesting, Dr. Swami,
Yes.
that if the Chinese do not restore status quo as of April this year,
Yes.
India or the Modi government and the BJP party rank and file are prepared to go to war with China to
Yes.
restore and reclaim the territory in Galiwan?
Absolutely. And the way our soldiers have behaved under the most dire circumstances and yet managed to see that there were more casualties on the Chinese side than our side this time, they are ready to die. Our soldiers say, we want to live with honor. So this whole country is that way. Again, I have already sensed it all over. See, although I'm not able to travel because of this corona, but I get messages, I get emails, I get, WhatsApp, all that. And I can tell you it will be 90% Indians want us to fight and get it back. Yes, if it's peacefully done, first preference. But if it's not peacefully done, go to war. And I think we have a high probability of winning. And I think that's something that the option that we must exercise in the end.
It's a very interesting proposition. Thank you very much. We can now throw the session open. Munish, if you have
I'd
any
like
questions.
to give the floor to give the floor to Sunil Chakko as a question from the Sunday Guardian.
Yeah.
Anil, if you could unmute Mr. Sunil.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Swami, for your work on resetting the economy and for the very interesting presentation.
Yes.
My question relates to the 1977 Protocol 1 addition to the Geneva Convention of 1949. As a medical doctor myself, it seemed to me that prohibited weapons have been used against our soldiers that cause permanent damage and, of course, many deaths, loss of eyes, other horrendous injuries.
Yes.
Shouldn't the documentation of this be done immediately and reported very widely, especially at the UN Security Council?
Yeah.
I'm also asking this question in memory of my uncle, who was the chief surgeon of the Indian Army in the 1960s.
Well, I think it's a very good suggestion. I'm sorry I didn't apply my mind to this. I know of the existence of that protocol. So yes, I think I will certainly pick up the phone, speak to somebody influential in the government and say this should be done. And this is only supplementary. It is, we are just because you're going to war, it's not only a question of firing bullets, you see, or running the tanks or whatever. It's also the software part. And that is to show the barbarity, the violation of international laws, and so on. And so this is really a very useful addition. Thank you for it.
Thank you.
Dr. Swami, when we talk of a limited local war, what are we talking about? I mean, you say that with a lot of, confirmation that there will be a local war. But do you think we can confine ourselves to anything local in terms of a war now? Only that part, only that hill?
Well, let me put it in a different way. I don't mind going to a full-fledged war. But I think it's the identity of the Indian which is now at stake. And I can't give it up. It's like Rana Pratap being told when he was eating ghas ki roti. He said that it is something which Hindustan will remember forever. If I eating ghas ki roti, I end up defeating them. And Haldighat, he did do that. Mm-hmm. And that's how everybody is inspired for centuries today. And so I would say that this is an emotional country. We feel offended that behind our backs somebody has come and occupied our land. And not to mention the land is just already under occupation, at least according to our way of thinking, which we have agreed to negotiate. So the issue before me is not that whether I am assured that it is limited. I think, knowing these total circumstances and having studied this problem for many times, I am of the view that Chinese will not even open a front in Arunachal because of the circumstances we are in today, both countries.
And how do you say that we will win this? Are you saying this because you're a BJP member of parliament, or with what degree of certainty that you're saying that you will win this?
If BJP doesn't say it, who will say it?
I know, but you said it with a lot
anyway,
of...
everybody knows that I don't mouth the party line just like that. Either the party mouths my line or I mouth my own line, you see. So it's no question of my saying what the party wants to hear. But I know the cadre wants to hear this. We should move in our troops. We are on flat ground, by the way, up to the border. And we should move in and have a battle royal. And you see, we have something to gain that we will wipe out 1962. The Chinese have something to gain if they don't go to fight, because then 62 remains. This happened in 67 in Sikkim. As soon as our tanks came in, they never thought the tanks can come on mountain roads. They were all pulled off. And this has happened again in Sumdungurong in 87. And in all our wars, the Chinese have not intervened. They made noises about goats being kidnapped and things like that. But they have not intervened in 65. They have not intervened in 71. 71, they had a special reason. They didn't intervene in Kargil. So therefore, my view is based on an educated guess, but in military matters and politics, educated guess is what makes nations.
Dr. Swami, there are suggestions being made in the media that we should give it back to the Chinese by recognizing the government in exile of Tibet. We should invite the foreign minister of Taiwan and recognize, disown the one China policy, and we should move our naval forces and be more assertive about South China Sea and our right for free passage without any, all these things. What do you think about all this?
Did the government of Taiwan ever support us on anything, including in 1962? Please read what the record of that. Do they not claim all the territories which the mainland China claims? What do we get out of recognizing Taiwan? What are they going to do for us? They'll send us some nice cell phones, that's about all. Or maybe some laptops. What is it, the strategic value of recognizing? I think this is America's job, not our job. Second, on Tibet, it's first of all, it's only 1/3 of the Tibetan population and 1/4 of the area. Are you in a position to defend it in that level? Cross the mountains, go there, stay there in this, those who go to Kailash Mansarovar, because they got habituated, so there's not a problem. But people have breathing problems. You're going to fight a war there? Not since Zorawar Singh has anybody had dared to do this. We have conquered Tibet. It's not that we have not conquered Tibet in history. The Sikhs did it. Zorawar Singh did it. So the issue is, for what? We are not going to be able to, we are not going to merge Tibet with India. And the Tibetans don't want to merge with India. Second, you can't just like Bangladesh, liberate them and leave them. And what Bangladesh today is, can you rely on them? Tomorrow they may support China for all I know. The way they're treating the Hindu minorities is a shameful thing. This is not, we are not making it public. So therefore, we don't take a liability which we are not able to discharge forever. I think there's gotten, and this will only enrage the Chinese, that's all. For what? We want our territory. And we want to live a friendly, friendly terms with the Chinese. We are ready to negotiate, talk. We got a lot of things to exchange. They have got damn good on the software, on hardware and electronics. We are very good in software. The two of us can collaborate. And we have a long history. It's not that it's like the War of Roses or something in Europe, which went on and on and on. So I think we have a limited objective. We must make it to the Chinese. We will not tolerate it. We are going to war. And the Chinese must know that. They should not think that we are the same softies of the 1962. That once the Chinese have occupied it, we will say, Acha, theek hai, we will discuss this and go on discussing it forever.
How soon will that situation precipitate? You think rather quickly?
No, it will be, for us, the best time would be late October.
Late October for what? To go to war?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they'll have trouble from their side. We are on flat land, as you said. But we had been building up. We
had
been
frozen.
Yeah, we had been building up our resources on our side.
Yeah, we have built so many roads. That's one of the reasons why they have done this. They have seen what network we have built. And we have to give this credit to Mr. Narendra Modi. It has happened only after he came.
So this would be big if we go to war and get that territory back.
Yeah,
I think it would reinforce our
necessary.
position. It would reinforce our position vis-a-vis POK and Pakistan also.
Yeah, absolutely. Pakistan will run away from POK then.
So what happens in this situation when we go to war with at the United Nations and with America? They'll all support. You think?
Doesn't matter. In Bangladesh, 114 countries voted against us, and only 11 voted for us. And you see, the question of Soviet veto didn't arise because it wasn't in the Security Council. It went to the General Assembly. And it made no difference. Just threw it in the waste paper basket.
But as you pointed out, this is clearly a Chinese or PLA incursion. So going to take it back is not really going to war. It's just taking it back.
Yeah, they will not go back unless you take it back.
That is clear to me too. I agree with you. Yeah. We have a question from Priya Saigal. Anil, can you unmute Priya from NewsX? Priya, are you ready?
I am ready. Yes. Hi, Dr. Swami. I know
Hello.
Just a quick question is, you said we should go to war with China. You're advocating that, but it can be afforded given the state of the economy, given the fact that there is corona, and will it suit the Modi government, this narrative to use nationalism? He always takes refuge in nationalism and all else fails. So this is really giving it to him on a platter. Use nationalism, hide over all the other ills that are happening where he's not delivered.
When the Japanese bombed the Americans in Pearl Harbor, the US Congress met and everybody said, and
the Americans bombed the...
No, Americans, Japanese.
Yeah.
Japanese bombed the Americans, sorry. Americans got bombed.
Yeah.
And this is what is going. Ministry of Finance doesn't understand this. It's not supply. People are, go to an automobile showroom, you'll see cars just standing there. You have to put money into the hands of the people. That's why you print notes. And so you go in for building weaponry. And that will, the economy is not a limiting factor. It's the war, in fact, might rescue your economy, but I'm not advocating that going to war because we want to improve the economy. A lot of people will die. It's not something that we can be happy about. That's what Lord Krishna told Draupadi when she was very unhappy when he said, give me 5 villages and we will settle to Duryodhan. So he asked her, you want the world to know that we went to war and so many people were killed because your honor had to be protected? This way we have shown to the world that this is so unreasonable that we have to go to war. The same way we have to show the world the Chinese are unreasonable. We'll prove it on documents to any party. I mean, not on a formal basis, because I don't believe in all going to UN and UN Security Council and all that, which Nehru did and ruined us on Kashmir. What I'm saying is that our case is absolutely perfect. The documents are there, 1993, 1996, 2013. All of them clearly show that the Chinese are in the wrong. So they must vacate. If they want our friendship, they should. The Politburo must assert and say, all right, enough is enough, pull back. And we will work out, we'll have more discussion on settling the LAC into a permanent line. But if they are not going to be reasonable, why we should be reasonable? You can't be reasonable if they're sitting on your chest and you say, okay, let's negotiate whether you should get off my chest or not.
But you don't still see this sort of flashpoint big flaring up into Pakistan at all?
Pakistan won't come, but the Americans will take care of that. And if they do, then Baluchistan will become independent. Pakhtunistan will become independent. Sindh will also become independent. We'll start emigre governments here and they're going to take over. The Iranians will not support Pakistan. And certainly the Iranians don't want to get into this. They have enough problems of their own.
But don't you think at this time the Americans are trying to play whatever roles behind the scenes or even overtly on
Americans are give and take people. They asked you to send 20,000 troops to Afghanistan. You said no. Why should they come to your help now? They wanted to sell you weapons. You agreed and you said there's such and such thing we want to buy. And then suddenly you go and buy S-400 from the Russians, which is, by the way, all full of Chinese electronics. If today you use it, I'm not sure that they'll function, because the Chinese know how to finish off, they are such masters in electronics. That will become a useless weapon. So the Americans are cheesed off. That is what I'm telling you. I know them very well. I lived 10 years with them. They say that there's no give and take in you. You just want to take. So we should have gone to Afghanistan, posted 20,000 troops there. The Afghan people like us. We should have told the Taliban, you want to fight? We are ready. So therefore, just because the Taliban was able to defeat the Soviets and the Americans, doesn't mean they can defeat us. We have ruled there. Maharaja Ranjit Singh ruled there.
That's right. But Dr. Swami, the Chinese troops have created incidents at 5 spots.
Yes.
On an arc of 1,000 kilometers.
Yes.
So, if we have to use force as a last resort, if the Chinese refuse to pull out, where is the guarantee it will be confined to only one area? It could be across 1,000-kilometer arc, no?
No, Chinese, as soon as we started negotiation, they walked out, they cleared out. There's only the 2 places they have not. And this Galwan Valley, that I think is too close to, Karakoram Pass. So okay. Therefore, they wanted to stick it out, but there's no other place they can.
Right.
I've been a member of the Defense Standing Committee for years and years. I've been to all these places.
Okay.
But why would we let that?
And you have to go and meet our Jawans. How much energy they display when they meet you. And this is not now, when everything was thanda.
No, I think you were pretty right when you summarized it by saying that look at what has happened in the last few days. It was the energy and the unrelenting attitude of the Jawans.
That's right.
Created that situation. And you know, the army is pretty clear about it. I mean, I've written on defense for years, and I think the Indian army today would not take anything, you know, coming down at them.
That's
And
right.
once they have clear instructions from Delhi, all the more a reason why they would go to the last mile.
Yes, yes.
So I think it's pretty clear the standoff is there, the standoff remains, and the only answer, unless PLA and Politburo can reconcile themselves to the importance of keeping the relationship with India, is that India will have to take that back.
There's one country which will support you in areas where we are weak. That's Israel. They will use electronics more effectively than anybody on this earth. But, you know, we are not going to publicize that, except that everybody knows we are friends with Israel.
Right.
They are very good at tactical warfare.
And intelligence.
Yes. But that's very good. Venkat, we are nearing our time. Do you want to summarize?
Yes, it's wonderful to have you and to listen to what you have to say. That it's very clear that Dr. Swami, that you, your government, your party are very keen that the Chinese must vacate the territory of India, which they occupied, in May. If they do not pull out honorably, your government is prepared to go to war to physically force them out of what India considers to be its territory. And then perhaps we could enter into negotiations to come to some kind of agreement for the line of actual control across the 4,000 odd kilometers. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure listening to you. Very enlightening. I hope all our participants also enjoyed listening to him. As soon as the club reopens, we'll look forward to seeing the club again, Dr. Swami.
Right.
Thank you very much for sparing your time at short notice.
Good.
Thank you, participants, Sunil, Priya, Vijay, and everybody else. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Swami. We'll close the meeting now, Anil. Thank you.